Today we're going to replace my old Corsair all-in-one water cooler with a big fat custom one all made from imported Chinese parts. Let's go! What's up and welcome back. I recently got my new hardware components, namely a 3700X and an Asus X470F Strix board along with 32 gigs of Crucial Ballistics RAM. So why I want to replace my AIO is because I want to use it to cool my GPU. Also, replacing smaller coolers with bigger ones is always a good idea. And on top of that, I wanted to see how Chinese water cooling components perform. So, for the price of 190 euros, I bought a 420mm copper radiator from Bykski, a white labeled DDC pump somewhere from Shanghai, an extra fan which we will need for the GPU cooler in another video, 2 meters of 1610 tubing, the wrong radiator screws, a bunch of standard Barrow fittings, some 90-degree fittings, a 3-way connector, a double-threaded connection piece, 2 plugs for the pump, and a nice infinite mirror CPU block from Barrow too. The price also includes a water temperature sensor, the pump bracket to mount it onto the radiator, and a big canister of distilled water I didn't care to take a photo of. The first thing we did is clean out all the components, including the tubing. You don't want any dirt or organic tissue inside your loop, especially if you don't want any additives in your water. That's why we use 2 different cleaning agents. There are good guides on this topic on the internet already, so let's quickly move on. Before I bought all the components, I did a drawing of how I intended the loop to function. I also planned which fittings would be needed and how to fill the loop. This would be a little bit complicated because we will not integrate a reservoir. I wanted to keep the loop as simple as possible and quickly replaceable in case of malfunction. That's my main rig for work, so I don't take too many chances here. And that's also why I call this a custom AIO. It's all together in one piece, like a pre-made one, just custom with the components you prefer and still easy to remove. Alright, let's build it. First we equip our radiator with the according fittings. And then we attach the pump. We already prepared it with a 3-way connector, a 90-degree fitting and a little piece of tubing. The adapter we used to attach the T-connector isn't rotatable. My bad, bought the wrong one. But we got lucky and it snapped in place exactly at the angle we needed. Getting the tubing's length right took a few attempts. But in the end it worked, so let's fix the pump in place real quick. Sadly, because sometimes we are dumb as the night is dark, that's directly translated from German but I think you understand, we decoupled it from the wrong direction because we forgot it will be mounted upside down later in the chassis. As you also can see, the pump sits a bit off-center. We didn't originally plan to mount it like this, but it's better this way because it leaves more space for the tube connecting to the CPU block later. Now, we put some fittings on the CPU block, a 90-degree and a straight one. And we seal off the holes on the pump's top we don't intend to use. Be careful and don't fasten them with too much force or you might damage the seal. This applies to every fitting you mount. Finger tight is enough. Alright, now we need to measure how long each tube needs to be. We remove the stock air cooler and then put the water block and the radiator in place. Then we measure the tubes and after that's done we assemble the whole thing. And here's why we need the T-connector. In order to fill the loop, we attach some tubing on it and a funnel on top. We place the case on our professional tech assembly couch and then slowly fill the loop step by step. Don't pour in too much at a time and move the whole loop around several times to get rid of the air. After 15 minutes of filling and shaking, the loop looked like this. So let's start the pump to check if the loop has any leaks and to get the rest of the air out. As you can see, the pump just works fine and moves quite a lot of water. Of course we put the air cooler back on the CPU before we powered up the system. You could also use a spare power supply to run the pump of course. Once all the air has left the system, if it doesn't, a little drop of dish soap will help to remove the water's surface tension. We unplug our filling helper tube and remove it without spilling too much water. Afterwards, we seal off the loop with our water temperature sensor. And that's it, we're done. After we noticed we had the wrong screws and I got some new ones, we mount the whole thing inside the case. Yes, I know I scratched the radiator. I carried it in my backpack and something scraped off the paint. Sad face. But never mind, let's go on. With the radiator in place, we apply some thermal grease. Alright, done. And now we fix the water block in place. One of the screws wasn't manufactured overly precise, but with a little bit of force everything went fine in the end. What follows now is hiding all the cables and splitting the RGB connector and other boring stuff. Let's skip this and power up the rig. Yes, nice. I think this looks awesome. And it also works awesomely. With the stock air cooler, we idled at 43 degrees. Now we sit at 37. Under full prime load, we now sit at 65 degrees with less spikes compared to 75 to 80 with the stock cooler. Our sustained boost increased from 4.1 to 4.2 GHz, everything in almost complete silence as the pump runs around 1600 RPM. It just emits a low frequent hum. After 45 minutes of prime, the water temperature settles at 37 degrees and the CPU stays at the high 60s to low 70s. All fans are fixed at 500 RPM. If you're interested in the pump noise, here's a comparison. Both recordings are done with a video mic around 10 centimeters away from the pump. Here's the pump at 100%. And here she is at 50. My pump's sweet spot is at 30%. At this setting she runs around 1500 RPM and is completely inaudible, at least for my ears. So I'm quite happy with what we built here. I can also say that Bykski and Barrow components are a real alternative to all the other established manufacturers in the Western market. The pump also is good value for the money. Only the acrylic top had some rough edges and we had to remove some milling remnants. But that's nothing too serious considering the price point of just $20 including shipping. Yes, I know we run it upside down and that's not what you're supposed to do. But I think the bearings should be okay and these instructions are only there because they don't want bunches of damaged impellers because of trapped air. But still, if you want to build a loop like this one by yourself, then make sure you really get all the air out before you run it 24/7 in your PC. And yeah, it wouldn't be me if I wouldn't already be planning how to improve the construct. So I've ordered a smaller Bykski pump, a rotatable connector for the 3-way fitting and a new bracket for a 90-degree pump mount. We need to free up some space for the front radiator, and I can imagine the smaller pump will run even quieter than the big one, which also turned out to be quite oversized for my CPU only loop here. The little one will also consume less energy and generates less heat. And it's even cheaper, just $18. And it will run within specs, in this case it means not upside down. Alright, let's see how things will turn out on the long run. If you enjoyed the video in any way, then consider to like, comment and subscribe. Thumbs down if you'd rather become an odor tester than have to watch this video again. Thanks for watching and see you next time.